Hello, hello. It is Astro Coach Sarah here, and I wanted to do a couple of specific videos to maybe define some terminology. I'm gonna try and make these as black and white as possible, but they are a little bit of like a concept to think about. Um, but we are heading, I'm not gonna do so much astrology as I'm gonna talk about like just stuff in the world and more of like a coaching type of thing, a little less astrology. So I think I'm going to keep the astrology videos at just new moons and full moons for now. And you already got the full moon in Libra. Thank you so much for all the viewers of that video. I hope it was helpful. We are heading into a very potent April, and it's going to really spike the middle part of the month with the Aries new moon. And I'll do a video for the Aries new moon next week. But for this week, I wanted to define what an NPC is and what that means for what you may be hearing as the divide in humanity. You may not be hearing this on everywhere, um, but, and you may have heard it, but you're like, what the fuck does that even mean? So let me try to define what an NPC is. An NPC, or I'm trying to think of another word. Like I usually use NPC and ensign interchangeably because ensign is more Starfleet, NPC is more gamer. Um, so I think I'm going to stick with that. And but they both basically mean someone who goes along with the script. So an ensign, which would basically be an intern on a starship, or an NPC, non-playable character in a video game, they are programmed by the game or Starfleet. That's the script that they know, right? This could even be true if you're like fresh out of college and you only know what you've learned in textbooks, you don't know from experience, right? Um, and I want to just point out that like being an NPC or an ensign in the matrix world that we live in, or the virtual reality that we live in, or the world that we live in, however you define that for yourself, is not good, bad, right, or wrong. Okay. I am not better or worse than you because I function more as a captain and you function more as an ensign. Doesn't matter because the knowledge that I have for being a captain or a leader or a coach or well, astrology is different, but but is stuff that you can gain. Okay? You can learn it. You have to want to learn it. You have to deviate from the textbook that you have read. You have to write your own textbook. Okay? So if you read, was there a textbook on adulting? I want the fucking textbook. I'm just saying, I want the fucking textbook. But there's no textbook on parenting. There's no textbook on adulting. There's no textbook on that. But there is the system, the program that we live in, right? And let's just say that that program that we live in is the iOS system on your phone. Okay. So the program that we live in has settings, it has rules, it has authority figures, it has, healthcare, medical providers, it has people who work in different institutions like financial, um, like people who work in hospitals, people who work in whatever, we're talking about, right? Business, et cetera, right? So there's those apps within the iOS or the operating system. I shouldn't say iOS and specify that. I should say OS, the operating system. And when you're an NPC, you go by the book of what is presented. You're supposed to do it this way, you're supposed to do it that way. That is what the playbook, the textbook tells you to do. A captain writes their own fucking book. Okay? We write our own book. I've been running this channel for 6 years, 7 years. When I started it, I was living in California. When at some point I moved to Arizona, at some point I moved back to Southeast Illinois, and now I'm in Central Illinois. I didn't write any of that. I thought when I moved to California, that was it. I was going to be in California. When I went to Arizona, I had plans to be there for 2 months, and I ended up staying for 2 years and would have stayed there forever. But my family needed me to come home. So I came back home. Um, Nothing of my life since 2019 have I planned because what I had planned was disrupted by February of 2020, right before 2020 became 2020. So, sorry. Um, when you're an NPC, you follow a script. You have to do this thing first, then that thing, then this thing, then that thing, because that's how the textbook tells you you have to do it. Kind of like getting a job, right? You apply for the job, you get an interview, maybe you have to do a second interview, maybe you have to do a third interview, and then you get the job. Or you do the application, you get the first interview, but then don't get the second or third. Or you apply, but you never hear back, right? There's a process that which these things have to happen. That is the program, the script of getting a job, right? You go to the doctor says you have this wrong with you, you need to take this medication. That's the script, the program. A captain might go to the doctor and the doctor says you have this wrong with you, you need this prescription. And the captain says, okay, let me go research that thing before I decide to put it into my body. They're looking for the side effects, the ingredients, the this, the that. Do I really need that? They don't just take it on authority from that medical person that's the answer. The NPC goes by the script. The captain has questions because they're writing their own book. They're writing their own script. You may notice that when certain news stories happen, that half your friends on Facebook change their profile picture with the new thing, the awareness thing, the I stand with blah blah blah, I stand with blah blah blah. Um, got to go against that because the media said this is happening. Most captains don't have time to watch the news. We don't even put it on. We don't put it on. We might catch a headline once in a while. We might whatever, but we're not watching TV, we're not watching the news because we don't have time for that. We're writing our own script. And to write your own script, it requires a bit more time and effort and energy, and you don't have time to think about what time the news is on. Um, you may think like, okay, well, what about the weather? I have 4 weather apps on my phone, none of which are 100% accurate 60% of the time. I look at the sky. I pay attention to the breeze, the sun, the clouds, ooh, something feels weird in the energy. You can tell it's about to storm. I pay attention to how it feels outside. I don't need a meteorologist to tell me anything. I know what the weather looks like. Again, I have 4 apps on my phone and none of them are accurate half the time. Um, I can tell when I go outside, oh, it's hot and humid. When is it gonna rain? Because I live in the Midwest. Um, health and health related things. I am not giving you medical advice. Disclaimer, I'm not giving you medical advice. What I am saying is that doctors do not know your body as well as you know your body. Unless you know your body, the more malleable and vulnerable you are to whatever they tell you that you need. I could give you several stories of examples of times when I personally should have been on a chronic medication journey that I opted out of. People wonder why I do not have diagnosed stuff for my chronic stuff because I don't want to play the game. Never wanted to play the game of, well, if you get this injection and this test, then we can see if there's something wrong with you. Well, how does that go? That literally is a wash, rinse, repeat cycle. So when I talk about an NPC would have like taken the injection when they were 25 and probably still be on injections at 47. I may or may not be able to move the way that I can move. Currently, I can do yoga and I can, you know, climb mountains. I can climb stairs. I can lift weights. I can do all of the things. Most 47-year-olds that I know cannot do that. I know a handful who can, but most 47-year-olds cannot do that. I'm glad I made the choices that I made when I made them. Do I take medications? No, but do I take antibiotics when they are necessary? And I always ask which one they are going to prescribe me, and we have a conversation about it, and it's usually for dental work. So, so I don't, but I know people who take antibiotics upwards of 5 times a year. Obviously, they don't know what that does to your gut over time. Most medications, I react to every potential side effect, which is why I avoid them at all costs. Even when my back was really messed up in my 20s and they offered me, I think they offered me Vicodin and I refused because I was like, I don't know how I'm going to respond to that. So I'm not going to do it. And I got like a lighter, pain reliever at the time. So keep in mind that like, from NPC to captain, you have to be more diligent, responsible with how your body works. You have to understand it. You have to learn how to nourish it. You have to know when your body is reacting in a good way or in a bad way. For me, that's often energetically as well. That doesn't happen to be the case with everyone. Me, it is. For you, it may not be. I know there's certain things that I have to do because of my energy. You may not have to. I have a friend who intuits the world very differently than I do. And I'm always like trying to, you need to do this, you need to do that. He's like, no, but mine works differently. And I'm like, oh yeah, I forget. Because he's like fire in his chart, and I'm not fire. I'm air and water. And air and water energy function differently than fire does. But to know all of those things, I have to know how my body works and what my body's going to respond to differently than, like, I can't know how someone else's body is going to respond. That's the practice of becoming a captain. So, how does this matter? Why does this matter with the divide in humanity? In the next 3 years, we're going to really see a lot of things change. Number one, the script the NPCs are following is collapsing. We have the second government shutdown in less than a year, affecting things like TSA. Last time it affected food stamps, and EBT. And those kinds of things are probably going to be affected again over time. We don't know. I can tell you that if the script and the program is collapsing, that eventually it's going to affect all of the things. So we will, I have been seeing it getting more and more apparent for the last year, the divide between captains and NPCs or dungeon masters and NPCs. Um, there's people who know how to be captain, who know how to be a dungeon master, and people who are NPC. And here's what I'm going to say. It's not like right, wrong, or anything in between, because some people, some humans are meant to be NPCs and ensigns. They're not meant to grow beyond that. That is okay. Some people desire to grow beyond that and they don't know how. And the how is you have to become self-aware and you have to deviate from the script and have the courage to do so. Because I'm telling you, having the courage to deviate from the 2020 to 2022 script was a freaking pain in the ass. Big time pain in the ass. I never had a clue how horrible I would be treated by friends, by people on the internet, by people, acquaintances, former colleagues, you name it. I never had a clue how I was going to be treated. But I was bullied, I was berated, I was questioned for my sanity, my intellect, all of the things. So having, like, it's one thing to say you want to become a captain, become a dungeon master, but do you have the courage to do it? Because it's okay if you don't. It's not an easy path by any stretch. It's not easy. There are tears, there's pain, there's like 2021 was a rough year because that's when I realized just how split and different I was from everybody else. Um, and not everybody's meant to do it. That doesn't mean that you cannot do it. And we are at a point in time starting in April and moving forward where there's going to be every opportunity to stay in the script. I mean, there always is an opportunity to stay in the script, right? To stay in the program. It's always available to stay within the program. And they keep you there with things like the sob stories, the heartstring stories. They keep you there with here's a new label, here's a new diagnosis, here's a new brilliant medication. They keep you in the script. They keep you in the program because what they don't tell you is that they created a new medication, but then they also did something to counter that medication. There is always an other side to the agenda. Always. And I am always looking for that. When something sounds really cool and really good, I'm like, what's the catch? What's the caveat? Whose money's involved? I'm always questioning it. And if the commercial sounds extra cheery for the new, I'm definitely asking some friggin' questions. Definitely asking some questions. So you can distance yourself from being an NPC and being an ensign. But I'm not going to tell you that it is an easy feat because I can tell you that it is not. But it's doable. And I know you can do it. But do I believe and trust that there are people who are meant to stay NPCs? Yes. There are also people who are meant to become captains. I think we all have the potential to become captain, to become dungeon master. I also know that there's plenty of people who won't do it because they don't even see that what they live in is a script or a program. And they don't want to see it. They don't want to know it. You may be one of those people. You're probably like, she's fucking crazy. That's okay. I've been crazy for a long time. Um, but there's plenty of people who don't want to see the reason that I speak out about these things is because I have an Aquarius heart. And my Aquarius heart is like, and my Pluto and Libra, albeit my 12th house. But um, the reason that I believe it is like, I believe this world can be better. I believe everyone is here with potential to be something greater than what the program tells them that they are, what the program labels them as, right? I'm visually impaired, I'm low vision, I'm legally blind. And I'm also an astrologer, a teacher, an author, a coach. I've been in the fitness industry briefly, but I still am an enthusiast. I know how to do research. I know how to figure out what ingredients are doing what thing. I crochet. What else do I do? Make my loose leaf tea. All these things. Travel. I've been a nomad. I've been a house and pet sitter. Like all these things. I spoke at an international conference, albeit that was like 20 years ago, I think. Something like that, maybe less than that, like 19. But I spoke at an international conference and presented a software program at the time. So I believe each and every one of you has potential to be a captain. I can also tell you that every stretch of the way to becoming a captain will test you. And it's not because the universe is a bitch and God sucks. No, that's not why. It's because the program is constantly working to keep you attached to it. Program, the script is constantly working to keep you attached to it. And they are, as the script and as the program is collapsing, as more people step into their captain role or their dungeon master role and is writing their own script, they're grasping at straws to keep people clinging to the program. Now, what does that mean when the program completely collapses? Number one, I don't know that it actually will for like our lifetimes because we're in such a long transition phase that it may not even happen in the next 50 years. But what happens to NPCs? Like if the program is so corrupt, they'll just play along with corruption. They'll just play along with corruption. Like it won't be any different. It'll be a little bit more dystopian. They will, you know, I'm not saying that the world that Captains is going to live in is going to be utopian. Look at Janeway. Her 7 year journey was definitely not utopian. It definitely had its share of doom and oh shit and what the fuck is species 8472? And holy crap, we have a former Borg on our ship. So I wouldn't say Janeway lived in utopia, but she accepted every challenge. In the episode The Year of Hell, she literally had a crumbling ship that she sent through the timeline or thing, the timeline thing or whatever it was. She sent it through it or crashed into, I guess she crashed into the other ship so she could destroy it. Her ship was like hanging on by a friggin' thread. So I would not say that Janeway was in a utopia, but she did have to keep writing the script because her mission was clear, get her crew home. So anyway, as we move through this next stretch of time, I just want you to be aware of like what these terms mean. The divide in humanity is that there are people who are captains and going to de continue to deviate from the script and the program, and there's people that are not. And you can choose to not be a part of the script or the program, but you have to be responsible about it. And that leads me to my program. So I'm not launching this yet. I'm kind of giving you a preview of what it will look like. But this is a ensign slash NPC, whichever language works for you, to captain slash dungeon master, whichever language works best for you. We can also use operating system if you prefer. I'm kind of a nerdy person, and I kind of wanted to bring some of my nerdiness to my coaching and my astrology. Now, this program can use astrology. I'm happy to pull up your chart. I'm happy to also not tell you anything about it other than look at it for myself, for my own reference guide, and not even tell you about it, but like use it as a tool to guide my own coaching. It is a 6 week program. And it is accelerated to help you break up with your victimhood and become aware of how you can be the captain, how you can be the dungeon master, how you can be the leader, how you can be the OS for your life. I am not talking about being the leader as in corporate or a mayor or an alderman or governor or whatever. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being the leader of your life, CEO of your life. So, anyway, if that's something that interests you, if you would like me to talk about more topics about what's going on in time and space right now, I'm happy to do so. Please let me know in a comment or otherwise. And I think I'm going to end it there. And I hope this was helpful. And if you have questions, let me know. I'll clarify if I need to, because I'm sometimes not good at the clarifying crap. I'm trying, I'm working on it. Anyway, so I'll talk to y'all next week. Take care.